Well, good morning, everybody. Jean Coltes is my name, presiding member for the Metro Outer Development Assessment Panel. I will open the meeting and acknowledge traditional owners and pay respect to elders past and present of the land on which we are meeting. Panel members today are myself, Tony Arias and Nima Premji, and for Part B, City of Rockingham, Councillors Mark Jones and Dawn Jex, and Part C, Councillors Huntley and Councillors Herridge. The meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Panel members may refer to technical devices throughout the meeting to assist them in considering the information before them. Item 2 on the agenda is apologies. I have apologies from Councillor Lorna Buckham, City of Rockingham, and Councillor Bronwyn Smith from City of Wanneroo. Item 3, members on leave of absence. There are none. Item 4, notice of previous meeting minutes and agendas are available on the MODAP website. Part B on the agenda of City of Rockingham. I will ask panel members to confirm that they've duly considered all the information and documentation for the item we're considering today by raising your hands. Thank you very much. Item 2, disclosures of interests. Councillor Jones and Councillor Jex have disclosed the standard council interest in that they have considered the matter before council. However, under the standing orders of the DAP, they are not bound by any decision made by council. Item 3 on the agenda is the Form 1 DAP application for proposed bulk storage facility at Mandurah Road, East Rockingham. And in accordance with standing orders, we have a presentation from Mr. Ross, from Taylor Burrell Barnett. Mr. Ross, if you'd like to make your presentation, a copy of which we have before us.
Thank you, presiding member. Thank you, panel members. As you said, my name is Jared Ross. I'm a principal with Taylor Burrell Barnett. I'm here representing the applicant today. What we have before you is a relatively straightforward proposal. It is the expansion of Cube Logistics' existing holdings at lot 805 Mandurah Road in East Rockingham. So Cube operates an existing transport depot and warehousing facility across lot 804 and 805. This is the expansion of that facility for the purpose of warehousing and storage. Cube are a long-term, high-quality tenant and then occupy all 3 of the sites. There is the potential that the development may be staged, so it's identified as stage 1 and stage 2. The rear portion of the site has an existing approval from the City of Rockingham as a hard stand area for the purpose of storage. So we may develop the first stage independently, or the whole development may be staged as one. We're not certain as yet. There are no additional employees as a result of the facility. They will utilise the existing employees as part of the facility. So we have provided additional parking, but that additional parking is surplus to Cube's actual needs and actual demand. We are supportive of the officer's recommendation, supportive of the conditions, with the exception of condition 7, Roman numeral 9, condition 19, and advice note 10. Now, each of these relate to an Aboriginal heritage site, which is located on lot 805. I guess first and foremost, I want to say that these conditions were put forward by the council, and we fully respect where the council is coming from. We understand the council is simply trying to ensure the protection of the Aboriginal heritage site, and we fully support that. So there is an identified Aboriginal heritage site on the subject site. It's shown in orange there. So it is a scarred tree. The proponents are fully aware of their obligations under the Aboriginal Heritage Act, so they have engaged with the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage, and they're seeking advice as to the requirements under the regulations there. They may be required to seek a consent under Section 18 to be able to undertake works, and they're working through that process at the moment. The conditions that have been applied, we have concern with because they may ultimately conflict with the requirements under this separate legislation. We're also concerned around the validity of those conditions, given that the Aboriginal Heritage Act applies to Aboriginal heritage sites and it deals with matters of works in the context of those sites. So a consent order will presumably set conditions around how the development occurs within the context of that site, and that's a separate process that will be gone through. So what we are seeking is the deletion of condition 7 of numeral 9, the deletion of condition 19, and the amendment to advice note 10. So currently advice note 10 simply refers to the 2 conditions that we're seeking the deletion of and recommends that the proponent engage with the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage as part of addressing those conditions. What we've suggested is that advice note be expanded to state that there is an Aboriginal heritage site and that recommendation is there to engage with the department, which we are already undertaking. Otherwise, we appreciate the panel members' time and are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jared. Panel members, do any of you have questions of Mr. Ross? Councillor Jones?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I guess I had an unrelated question regarding conditions 4 and 5. It talks about notification and the shared parking, but could you just remind us why the lots couldn't be amalgamated to make that a bit cleaner as well?
Yeah, sure. It's not a matter of they can't be amalgamated. It's a matter of whether it is reasonable to require the amalgamation. So generally amalgamation is required where a building crosses the boundaries. At the moment, the proponent has 3 separate lots that they can leverage against for the purpose of financing or maintain as an asset, and they wish to maintain that. An amalgamation would require servicing realignments and all sorts of other costs that just aren't necessary as part of an application. Like this. So you're happy with relationship between the sites. Sorry.
Oh, so you're happy with those conditions, I gather, so that they were discussed previously about putting a moral and title. Okay, thank you. And regard to the Aboriginal Heritage Place, I mean, how far are you with conversations? I mean, I guess that could very impact the actual, siting of the building, for instance, and I think it was Councillor Jex that actually just wanted it sort of flagged. I realise it could just be a footnote, but so could you give us an update where you are with sort of discussions regarding the tree? I know the tree's in basically a dead tree now as well, so.
Yeah, the tree's been dead for 30 years at least, I understand. So based on the advice we have thus far, we don't believe that it will affect the siting of the building. Obviously, if it does, there may need to be variations either at a building permit stage or through an amendment to the approval, but we don't believe that it will affect the siting of the building. It's really about the construction the construction activities to ensure that the tree is protected.
Okay. And I think just finally regarding, I mean, you saying it's not really valid to put a condition that cross-references to another legislation. I mean, it's nothing in regard to this application, but there is cases where we require like noise management plans to ensure compliance with environmental noise regulations. So, I mean, there is, I guess, other cases where we refer to other legislation and conditions, but I don't know, I'd like to hear the other panel members too. I'm happy either way, I guess, as long as you are aware of it and you're addressing it, but it's really like it's a chicken and egg, which comes first as well. So thank you.
If I can, my concern there is the potential for conflict more than anything else, whereby we have a condition that requires that and we have an existing legislative requirement that requires that. One is to the satisfaction of the city, the other is to the satisfaction of the state. So if there is conflict in the assessment of those or any differences in the assessment of those, that could cause confusion and challenges in implementation. So our view is the Aboriginal heritage site is the responsibility of the state government and we will comply with the obligations under the Act.
Yeah, just Councillor Jones, it's relying on a third-party approval and conditions from this panel can't be imposed that rely on a third-party approval, such as for the approval of main roads or the approval of Western Power or approval of, Department of Planning for the Aboriginal heritage issue. So our conditions have to stand alone under our legislation rather than other.
Okay, and just an advice note. All right, thank you very much. Nothing more from me.
Okay, thank you. Panel members, do you wish to speak to any of the council staff in regard to this? I can't see where they are at the moment, but
Yeah.
oh, sorry, didn't see you there. Okay, all right. Well, I suppose the question would be from the council staff: are you happy with the proposed wording that the applicant has put forward?
Is that the question?
Yes, it is.
Do you want me to have a seat there? Or
You can move over there. Thank you. Sorry, I thought.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, David, sorry, you can carry on.
No problem. So, in response to the request to delete condition 19 from the officer's perspective, strictly from planning compliance, I agree that it is a condition that can be dealt with through a third-party process. So, strictly from a planning perspective, we wouldn't have an issue with that because the amended advice note would cover, I guess, the expectation of the city, which would ensure that the relevant approvals have been obtained from the state under the Aboriginal Heritage Act. Regarding the request to delete condition 7.9, I guess it's a measure to look at ensuring that the construction works are managed in a way that they don't impact the tree. Just taking a step back, when we refer this application off to the state for comment, it was a very generic response, basically saying that approvals were required under the state.
Sure.
I was more so interested whether the tarmac or the bitumen that is going to be surrounding the tree is a measure that's appropriate. So I'm wondering more so whether condition 7.9 needs to be actually included as a point under the landscaping condition, which would potentially identify if there are any improvement works around the tree in terms of landscaping that area, that be included in the landscape plan?
I presume that the department under the Aboriginal Heritage Act would want advice from the applicants how they're going to maintain it and protect it after construction. So that's something that they'll have to take up with them and get their approval on. In terms of 7.9, I mean, I don't have a problem with that staying there because that's fairly standard where you've got either a dead tree, a heritage tree or any tree. They're sort of conditions that saying measures being taken to protect existing trees during the construction. So I don't have a problem with that one per se. In terms of landscaping, the landscaping plan is the landscaping plan, and I think the flow on from the approval from the Aboriginal Heritage Act, I think, is what the applicants have to show how they're going to maintain it, protect it. I don't think there's a question of maintaining the root system so that the tree will continue to thrive, because it's not thriving. So, but yeah, I mean, if they're going to have it sitting in the middle of the tarmac, I think they'll need some fairly hefty bollards or something around it to protect it if in fact they have to protect it, because as I said, they may want to, under Section 18, approval to remove the tree if that in fact happens.
Presiding member, in terms of condition 7.9, I think I have no difficulty provided it's clarified as you've suggested. So it's not necessarily the link back to an approval under the Heritage Act. It's more about protecting a significant tree for amenity purposes. So if you perhaps want to consider adding some additional words that relate to construction and impact of construction, I think that's probably, then it becomes an appropriate condition rather than the link back to the Heritage Act.
We can do that.
Yeah.
I mean, the preamble in condition 7 says that prior to the commencement of work, a construction management plan must be submitted to and approved by the city and shall include, but not limited to, the following, which is measures being implemented to protect the tree. as part of construction. So I think that stands alone well on its own.
Yeah.
I don't think anything really needs to be added to that. In terms of the landscaping plan, well, you have a landscaping plan. It shows what's required under the council's scheme and policy in terms of landscaping. How they protect it is something that they've got to sort out with the Aboriginal Heritage Act. So I think that's my view on it anyway. Do the other panel members have a comment?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. I was the one who wanted to get it in under conditions 19.
Yep.
Because reading the other conditions and the rest of the documentation, I didn't feel confident that we weren't opening ourselves up to an oops moment. And what I'm talking about by that is, we've had situations in the city before where a proponent has had to deal with another government agency and to get permissions and approvals, etc. And then there's been no consequences. So, under the EPBC Act, they needed to obtain approval and they didn't. And we lost something that was valuable and a valuable environmental asset. I see this tree as a heritage asset. I mean, as the decades roll on, these sorts of things and our history and heritage is going to become more and more important. So I didn't feel comfortable within the rest of the plans and arrangements that it couldn't happen quite easily, that the things just bulldozed over and it's gone. There's the measures, an oops moment, the measures weren't in place, they weren't robust. And that's why I thought, I argued for and got support for moving it up the rung.
Okay, well,
So I'm just explaining why, what the motivation was, and if we can come up with something to achieve the same thing, so that everybody's happy with the outcome by adding some words in, I'm comfortable with that.
Okay. All right, well, thanks, David. I don't have any further questions of you. Any other members have questions?
Just point out there's a typo in condition 10.1. It refers to maximum fire keyword. It's actually a maximum fine keyword, which just relates to dead leaf.
Okay, we'll deal with that as a typo. That's fine. Thanks, David. All right, panel members, no further questions of the presenter or council staff. We can now move into discussion and debate on the item. In order to do so, I would like to have a mover for the item, Councillor Jex, and a seconder, Councillor Jones. Thank you. Councillor Jex, you have the floor.
Yeah, well, I think I've made myself clear in my questions and comments earlier what my position is, and I'm hoping we can come up with some words and some tweaking to ensure an outcome that everybody's comfortable with. I think at the moment it needs a bit of tweaking. I can't suggest the words that we need to do to make sure that my concerns that I've raised are.
Well, I think if the council, if panel members are requiring the tree to be maintained, it could be that something to the effect that the heritage listed tree shall be retained to the satisfaction of council on advice from the Heritage Council, I presume, or Department of Planning.
Department of Planning.
Yes, Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage. So that's that puts the onus of the tree being maintained to council satisfaction on advice. And if the advice from Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage is, after the applicants have gone through their process, that the tree can be removed, well, you kind of have a condition that says it's got to stay, but if the Department of Planning says it can go, if you know what I mean.
So, yeah, so I'm just not sure how.
I mean, the decision whether it stays in perpetuity or it can be removed is not the council's decision. But if the council wants it to be maintained, but if the other authority says it can go, then you've got a bit of a two bob each way sort of thing. You can't, it may have to be maintained under a condition of council.
Okay, but we were looking at keeping the 7 in there, correct? 7.
Well, that's to that
9?
7-9, in my
Prior to
opinion,
commencement of work.
is to protect it during any construction around it.
Yep.
It may fall away if in the meantime they get approval to remove the tree.
That's fine. That's fine. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to be.
Well, it won't be removed until they go through the process,
Right.
and if it takes 2 years, and they want to build the rest of it, then they have to protect it.
Right.
It's like verge trees. Councils these days
Yes.
insist before a building licence is issued, you put fencing around verge trees and any other trees on site that require, maintaining. So I'm happy, from my point of view, to put a condition in that the tree is to be maintained or to be maintained to council's satisfaction on advice from the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage.
So would that mean that we're talking about deleting condition 19,
Yes.
but keeping 7-9?
7-9, yes.
Keeping.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And of course, the footnote is that they've got to go through that statutory process, which they can't avoid anyway.
Right. Okay. Well,
And if they do avoid that, then there's some fairly hefty penalties for removing something without the approval of the Section 18 clearance provision.
Okay.
Okay, so that's my view. Are there any other queries or comments on that? Councillor Jones.
Just Chair. So are you happy for us to move with the amendments, or do you want us to move and then do an amending motion sort of thing? How would you prefer?
Well, look, you're the movers and seconders. You can do an amending motion at any time, can't you?
You
Yes.
can do amending motions, but if you're including it with your substantive, then you need to
Yes.
be clear about what you've moved.
Yeah.
So everyone knows.
I mean, you've moved and seconded this. If you want to make amendments to it, you can move the motion, amending motions now.
Okay. With permission through Councillor Jacks as well. So yeah, I'm happy to.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, maintain 7-9 and delete conditions 19 and replace the advice note as per the presentation by Taylor Burrell. And also just amend that typo in 10.1. I think it's fine instead of fire. So
yeah. And do we wish to include another condition 19?
About that's
Which talks, that's.
Well, we're talking of deleting 19.
No, but actually replacing it with a more protecting, which the chair.
Oh, right. Okay.
Well,
so
I was
that's-
suggesting a wording. I wasn't moving anything. I just, Councillor Jacks asked
So you're talking about
how
placing
you could maintain that. You had some concern that they may avoid the keeping of it. I don't think they will, by the way, because they've got a statutory process that they have to do. But if you want to consider that, then that's something we can do.
So you're suggesting we put something different to what it says in 19?
If you're suggesting it, you can move that.
Do I need to come up with the words? Right.
I just think there's a bit of a risk. Like if they got a Section 18 saying it needs to be removed, well then we're at impasse. Like then.
I tend to agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So I prefer just to leave it off.
Yep.
No.
Okay.
Leave off 19.
All right. So
Sorry, so can I just clarify? You have moved and seconded the report recommendation, leaving conditions 7 and 9.
7.9.
7.9 as is.
Yeah.
Deleting condition 19
Yes.
and adding an advice note as per Jared's presentation.
Presentation. That's it. Yes.
Yep, that's all. Thank you.
It's amending advice note 10 and then condition 10.1 amending the word fire to fine.
Yep.
Yes, that's it.
Okay. All right. So that's the amending motion and the I think we'll move that as an amending motion. The
Sorry, I
mover
thought
and
it was being done with the approval
Yes.
of the mover and seconder.
Okay, so it's been done with the approval of the mover and seconder. So do we want to, councillor Jex, close debate on the item?
I'm happy with that, yeah.
Okay, all right, then I'll put the motion as amended. You all clear on it? Okay, all in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you, everybody on that one. Item 4 on the agenda, DAP applications, Form 2, there are none. Item 5, Section 31, SAT reconsiderations, we have none. Okay, all right, well, we'll move on to the next part of the agenda, and I'll thank councillors Jones and Jex and the presenters and City of Rockingham staff for their comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you all.
See you next time. Oh, okay, we're right. Councillor Holly. Right to go.
Yep.
Okay, well, good morning, everybody. On part C of the agenda for today, City of Wanneroo development application. Item 1 on this part of the agenda is I'll ask all panel members to confirm that they have duly considered all documentation contained within part C of the agenda. Thank you very much, councillors. And disclosures of interest, I don't have any particular ones. Item 3 then on the agenda is, oh, councillor Huntley, sorry.
Thank you. I do have a disclosure of interest. I am the president of the Historical Society, and I also sit on the Heritage board as well.
I presume that none of those positions will affect your ability to make a informed decision today?
That is correct. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're not bound by anything, any decisions of those resolutions, etc. Okay, thank you. Well, getting back to the item, the proposed fast food outlet at Two Rocks. We have a number of presenters this morning, and I don't have a list of them. I don't have a list of them here. Okay, we have written submission from Kathleen and Blair Shackleton. That's on the agenda. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4 presentations from people that are here. So I'll invite those in order of, we've had written submissions from Kathleen and Blair Shackleton, Michelle Messer and Rebecca Guthrie. We do have presenters. Dorothy Dean. Is Dorothy Dean here or is she online?
I'm here. I'm online. Thank you.
Okay.
I haven't got my video on.
Okay, sorry, we do have you, Dorothy.
Yeah.
Thank you. I will let you know that you have 3 minutes to make your presentation, and so please proceed. All presenters have 3 minutes, by the way, except I think Mr. Ree would like 5 minutes.
Approve that, James?
Yes, we have. I have approved that. Okay. All right. Yes, Dorothy. Sorry. Please proceed.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to allow me to speak today on behalf of the Two Rocks community. I've been a resident for more than 12 years, and Two Rocks has grown exponentially during this time. I'm not against growth. I know it's inevitable, but how that growth happens and what that growth is absolutely matters. When you're talking about introducing a 24/7 fast food outlet into a community that has arguably led one of the cleanest lifestyles in Metro Perth, it matters. When there already is a McDonald's restaurant operating merely 8 kilometres away, it matters. There is no good reason why the City of Wanneroo should have approved this development. They have chosen to support this McDonald's be built on oceanfront land, only 50 metres from the pristine beach in the heritage-listed Sun City precinct. A 24/7 fast food chain like McDonald's is at odds with what is actually needed and wanted by the community, and as highlighted by the hundreds of submissions received by the City of Wanneroo during the community consultation period, where an overwhelming 94% of submissions were opposed to it. But still the council chose to ignore residents despite their strong arguments against it. And importantly, this development is at odds with community health and wellbeing. Since being notified, I started an online petition outlining my concerns. In less than 7 days, the petition received an overwhelming 828 signatures. 828 people cared enough about the issue to sign the petition and share it amongst their friends. I hope you've had some time to read their very valid comments. I think it's clear by the submissions received by council and from my petition, the community does not want this McDonald's here. Arguments against this development are as follows. The proposed location is directly opposite Charnwood Park, which includes a skate park, children's playground and local library. This is a red flag and should have been the very first consideration when approving this planning. The temptation for kids will always be there and inescapable. It is en route to the 2 schools in Two Rocks, posing a health risk to the hundreds of school kids who pass this location every single day. With little other choices on offer, kids are naturally going to gravitate towards McDonald's, posing a serious and major health risk for them. The proposed location is adjacent to the Two Rocks Marina, posing an absolutely high risk of increased pollution into the sea and marina. It's only 150 metres south of King Neptune. I don't know how many heritage listed places there are in Perth that have a 6-metre high glowing McDonald's sign positioned on it. If this development was being proposed in Cottesloe or City Beach, there is no way it would get past the first round of approvals. The developer, McDonald's, and the City of Wanneroo do not have the community's best interests at heart here. I feel they have taken advantage of this community. Two Rocks children have had no fast food outlets in close proximity to their homes since forever. I would argue our kids could be some of the fittest in the nation. And if a study was conducted on children's health and fitness in the area now and then in 5 years' time, if this McDonald's goes ahead, I would imagine the results would be catastrophic. If you approve this today, it will open the floodgates of all other fast food restaurants to set up shop at this location, as once one goes in, they all seem to follow. This would be utterly devastating for our community. Please take into consideration the number of points I've outlined today and also my written presentation, particularly around the risk of introducing highly processed foods that are unhealthy and are known to be potentially carcinogenic, and how this will negatively impact the children in the area. I am pleading with you today to reject this application and listen to the overwhelming majority of residents who took time to submit their objections. Please consider it as if it were your children's health at risk. Thank you very much for listening.
Your time is up. Elaine Benkendorf, sorry.
Sorry, did you want to ask any questions?
No, well, I suppose we should ask questions at this stage because they're not all homogenous. Panel members, any questions of Dorothy Dean? If not, okay, we'll proceed to the next presenter, Elaine Benkendorf. Online.
She's just joining now.
Just coming online now. Not.
She should be able to unmute herself and put her video on. Perfect, there we are.
I hope I pronounced your Christian name correct.
Absolutely perfect, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, you have 3 minutes commencing now. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Look, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to voice my concerns with this development application. One of my main frustrations is that I keep being told that issues raised by the community, such as effects on heritage, litter, public health, proximity to community facilities, etc., are not planning considerations and that they can't be considered by decision makers. However, I find these factors are specifically provided for as part of the deemed provisions which are read into the local planning schemes under Section 257B of the Planning and Development Act. So in my view, it is more that due regard is not being given to those matters to enable proper and orderly planning to occur, and in essence, for common sense to prevail. In my published deputation, I've highlighted a number of planning considerations under the deemed provisions that I believe should be given due regard. However, due to the time constraints, I'll be focusing on 2 of them, general compliance with the local structure plans and environmental concerns, particularly litter. So in 2010, the council agreed to the structure plan for the area that was based on a tourism and resort economy with the style of development to be coastal boutique and finer grain. I note that the use of fast food outlets is discretionary in this particular area. The council agreed to the plans when they had the power to interpret the structure plans in accordance with their views. I've had many discussions with former councillors and residents who clearly remember the public consultation and the presentation that was put forward by the developer for this area, which is very different to what we are seeing created before us now. The community was sold a vision of a coastal boutique unique town centre, which sensitively incorporated heritage elements by the developer. When you think of coastal boutique or tourism and resort economy, you think of places like Margaret River, Mandurah, Rockingham, Hillary's, none of which are boasting a Woolworths and a McDonald's at the heart of their foreshore area. In my view, the development style of coastal boutique should encourage things like surf shops, cafes, boutique shops, restaurants, perhaps a fish and chip shop, similar to the things that already exist in the area. Certainly not an international fast food chain such as McDonald's, which boasts over 100, I think it's over 100 stores in WA and over 1,000 in Australia. In summary, I do not believe the proposed development application aligns with the broader concept of a district centre based on tourism and resort economy, nor does it align with concepts of coastal boutique and finer grain Two Rocks town centre as stipulated in the relevant district and local planning schemes. On a side note, it also does not sensitively incorporate elements of heritage. With very little police or local security presence in Two Rocks, the potential for antisocial behaviour due to its 24-hour operation and its effects on the King Neptune statue and other statues in the surrounding areas are very real. I would now like to draw your attention to my next point, which is the environmental concerns, and highlight the objectives of the state's coastal planning policy, which includes to protect, conserve and enhance coastal zone values, particularly in areas of cultural significance. These values are also reiterated in the City of Wanneroo's coastal management plan. I would now ask you to draw on these policies to influence your decision regarding the unacceptable environmental risk that the inevitable litter from the proposed McDonald's poses to our coastal environment. As Dorothy mentioned, the McDonald's is located within 50 metres of the beach and the marina. And I think in my written deputation, I outlined some research where they showed that there are circles of trash around fast food outlets. The first circle represents, areas of interest, so points of interest where people purchase the McDonald's or the fast food and then they go and sit there and then eat it and leave their trash behind. So you've got Charnwood Park right there, you've got the marina, you also have the beach. So these are all areas that are going to be covered in litter. And look, whatever is being done, I know there's conditions that are put in place for McDonald's to deal with these types of issues with litter. But whatever is being done by McDonald's is clearly not enough because we see it all over the place.
Your 3 minutes are up. Thank you.
Sorry, it's just one more paragraph, if that's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, look, as I'm sure the panel are all aware, there are no third party or public review rights to SAT. So this is it for us and for our small coastal community. We have no other viable options for recourse. I respectfully ask that the panel carefully consider and prioritise the factors that have been raised in objection to this proposal and make a decision that's consistent with the orderly and proper planning of our unique heritage coastal suburb of Two Rocks. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, panel members. Have anyone got a question of the presenter, please? No? Thank you, Elaine. I will move on to the next presenter, Sonnet Coetzee, online as well. Just waiting to get connected.
Can you hear me?
Hear you, can't see you.
Trying to find my camera here.
If you're having trouble, you can make the presentation as is.
Yeah, I'm finding a bit of trouble here. It's a new iPad.
Okay. All right, well, if you'd like to make your presentation, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Oh, something is coming.
Oh, here we are. We've got something happening. We do have a copy of your presentation.
There we go. There we go. Thank you. I want to express my sincere appreciation for your taking the time to consider my deputation. As one of the North Ward councillors, I believe it is crucial for me to address the matter at hand. Numerous concerned residents of Two Rocks have approached me on this matter, urging me to advocate for their stance against the proposed development. They have strongly voiced their objections to the proposed development, with 380 submissions opposing the approval, citing several compelling reasons. Firstly, they are deeply troubled by the potential environmental impact, particularly the significant waste generated by thousands of cups and boxes used, leading to pollution. Additionally, they are alarmed by the littering of cups and boxes in the surrounding areas of these outlets, as we are currently witnessing this issue at Alkimos and Yanchep. Furthermore, there are valid concerns about the unpleasant smell often associated with fast food establishments, particularly affecting homes nearby. There are also apprehensions regarding the potential of antisocial behavior in the vicinity of these outlets, as well as the noise and increased traffic a new fast food outlet could bring. I implore the esteemed panel members to carefully deliberate on the consequences and strongly consider not granting approval for this application. I sincerely appreciate your attention to this important matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sonnet. Panel members, are there any questions of the presenter? No. Thank you very much, Sonnet.
Thank you.
Mr. Alex Fig, online.
Just joining now, I assume we'll be putting his camera on. Perfect.
Hello.
Hello, Alex. We can see you. If you'd like to commence your presentation, I'll remind you, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, and thank you to the rest of the panel for allowing me the time to make this presentation. Look, I would like to start by saying that I am a supporter of all development, big, small, macro, micro, whatever size, whatever type. I just believe it should be done in a process that makes sense and aligns with the intent of planning policy and not just the detail. So with that being said, I do respectfully disagree with some aspects of the report and some of the conclusions contained therein. In particular, I'd like to focus on actual planning considerations in the hope that they are relevant and significant enough to make a difference. So the first would be smells. The second is light pollution. The third is litter. The fourth is noise pollution. And the fifth is the spirit of the local development plan number 3, which covers the area. So with noise, light, and smells, when this sort of development is proposed for a usual greenfield site where it is flat, broadly speaking and generally speaking, you can understand how the processes in place can take care of these issues to a relatively good degree and ensure that residents aren't unduly impacted by the new development. This site in particular has a very sloping characteristic, particularly heading up to the southeast of the subject site. With that sloping characteristic, I would posit respectfully that smells, light, and noise pollution will be much more pronounced for these residents and impact their amenity much more so than would otherwise be the case in a greenfield site. I would also suggest respectfully that given the impact that this can have on these homes, that there are possibly 2 options that could be done to make sure that the amenity remains intact. One would be obviously to not approve the proposal. Given that it does satisfy much of the planning criteria, I would then probably suggest, should the panel be of the mind to approve it, that the conditions be put upon it that the operation hours be restricted so that it cannot open between 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. This would ensure that noise and in particular smells and light do not impact the residents immediately southeast of the site to a degree greater than is, I guess, acceptable in my mind. Now, I will just briefly move on to, onto the litter aspect. So in improving the land use, the Development Assessment Panel must be satisfied that complying with any relevant conditions is within the capabilities of the applicant. I would respectfully suggest that this is very difficult in every site. Most of the time, waste management plans are effective at managing these issues at operational sites, and we do see cleanups having a good effect, particularly around Yanchep. But the issue here is that it is completely exposed to the wind. There is also a heritage precinct, as has been previously said. There's a public open space right adjacent to it, and there's a marina currently undergoing a $20 million redevelopment, which is just a few hundred metres away. I would respectfully again suggest that this isn't an acceptable outcome from a LIDA perspective. In saying that, I also don't believe restricting the trading hours will assist in this issue. So, I mean, my push would be for it to not be approved, but I would also again suggest restricting trading hours. And finally, and very briefly, I hope, is that the LDP number 3, which covers the site, which has been mentioned previously, very much focuses on boutique tourism. In fact, it quite specifically mentions that in that document. I would suggest that this proposal is not in keeping with that. And although the detail of the planning guidelines would probably lead to its approval, I think the intent of that document clearly isn't being met by this proposal. That being said, if the panel is of the mind to approve this application, I would ask again that reduced operating hours be put in place to mitigate the proposal's effect on the local community. And with that, I finish my deputation. Thank you.
Thank you. Alex, panel members, any questions of Mr. Fick? No, thank you very much. All right, the next presenter in support of the application is Mr. Mark Ree. Now, I have given 5 minutes for this because even some of the presenters have gone over their 3 minutes anyway. Mr. Ree did ask for 5 minutes to address a number of the issues raised in the presentations. Mr. Ree.
Thank you, presiding member, and good morning, panel members and city's officers. I am representing the applicant this morning in support of the proposed McDonald's fast food outlet in Two Rocks. I'm also joined by Todd Wood, Senior Development Manager at McDonald's. We are pleased to receive the officer's recommendation to approve this application, subject to conditions. We thank the city's officers for their collaboration and engagement throughout the application process. The city's RAR comprehensively assesses this proposal and its merits against the relevant planning framework. We do appreciate and understand the concerns that have been raised by members of the community this morning and through the public consultation period. The Two Rocks Town Centre is experiencing change and transformation into a district centre as planned under the various levels of the planning framework. The emerging district centre has experienced recent change through substantial subdivision and civil works, the approval of a Woolworths supermarket in May 2022, and now a proposal for a McDonald's restaurant. There are a few themes and concerns raised by the presenters this morning, which I'd like to respond to. These themes are the suitability of the site and the location to accommodate the McDonald's use, the coastal boutique and design considerations applicable to Two Rocks, the heritage impact of the McDonald's proposal, and the perceived amenity impacts associated with the use and 24/7 trade. In relation to the land use suitability, the Two Rocks Town Centre is identified as a district centre under State Planning Policy 4.2 activity centres. Under SPP 4.2, fast food outlets are classified as shop retail uses and are identified as desired land uses within district centres. Accordingly, fast food outlets are suitably located and positioned in district centres. The site is also located in the commercial zone of the Two Rocks Town Centre Structure Plan and fronts Lisford Avenue, which is another regional road under the Metropolitan Region Scheme. The Two Rocks Town Centre Structure Plan identifies a Zura loop between the King Neptune sculpture and the Woolworths development site as the dedicated main street for the town centre. It is therefore appropriate in our view for this development to be positioned within the commercial zone along a regional road. Considerable effort has been made to design this proposal to appropriately reflect the coastal boutique of Two Rocks. This is not a standard McDonald's development. We've worked closely with the city's officers through various revisions of plans to integrate design treatments, colours and materials that better align with the coastal boutique of the locality. These design aspects include use of lighter colours to the external building finishes to complement the existing limestone that can already be seen on site and through the town centre, softer external materials and finishes including timber batten screens, incorporating a timber wave element into the drive-through screen, and finally introducing a public art element to the external facing drive-through screen where there is no policy requirement to do so. In relation to the heritage considerations, the proposed development is located 170 metres from the King Neptune sculpture and will be further disconnected to the sculpture once the Woolworths development has been completed. Importantly, this proposal is supported by the Heritage Council of Western Australia and the heritage impact statements prepared both by the city's appointed consultant and the applicant's consultant, which demonstrate that the proposed development will not impact any heritage material or heritage values in the locality. And finally, in relation to the perceived amenity impacts, these are common concerns associated with the McDonald's development, which operates on a 24/7 basis. To understand and address these potential concerns, comprehensive technical assessments are prepared as part of our lodgement material. For this proposal, an acoustic assessment has been prepared, which demonstrates that the proposal will comply with the noise regulations at all times, including over the nighttime period for a 24/7 operation. A transport impact assessment has been prepared, which demonstrates the traffic generated by the development can be accommodated within the surrounding road network. And an intrusive light analysis has been prepared, which demonstrates the proposal will comply with the relevant Australian standards and not result in unacceptable light spill impacts. In relation to potential odours and smells, which we've heard from some presenters this morning, McDonald's designs their kitchen equipment to comply with the relevant Australian standards. I will add to that they do install disposable filters that capture 98% of airborne grease before they go into the extraction system. So they do implement ways and mitigation measures to resolve or mitigate those potential impacts. In relation to waste, a waste management plan is required in accordance with Condition 16, which will set out the procedures for McDonald's to collect and manage waste along with controlling litter. In closing, this proposal is suitably located within the Two Rocks District Centre and has been designed in a manner to reflect the coastal boutique of the locality and mitigate any perceived amenity impacts. We respectfully request the panel approve this application. We've also submitted a request to delete condition number 17, which is outlined in my presentation note. Based on my discussions with the city's officers, I understand the city has no concerns with the removal of this condition. I'd be happy to talk further to this condition if required. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Panel members, do any of you have questions of Mr. Reid?
Presiding member,
Mr. Tyler, Mr. Wood, yes.
Question, clarification. The images in the RAR page 182, are those images reflective of the revised plans that you refer to?
Are you referring to the perspective? Sorry. Yes. Yep. So we actually had a few cracks at this with the city's officers. We have updated these perspectives to reflect the material schedule that is contained within the development plans in the RAR. So there is a materials schedule as part of the development plans.
Thank you. Any further questions, panel members? Yes, Councillor Herridge, had your hand up first.
Thanks, presiding member. I just wanted to check, just on the toilet facilities, I'm sure this has been looked at and overlooked or what have you with people in the past. I just found it strange. I think it is standard with McDonald's outlets that there is only 3 provisions for a male, female and a UAT. Is that correct?
I can comment that they are designed in accordance with the building code.
Okay, so that is sufficient then for the capacity of the restaurant?
Yes, as we've demonstrated through other restaurants that have been delivered.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I presume there's a staff toilet, is there?
Yes, there is.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I was just trying to pick that up. Okay, Councillor Huntley.
Yeah, I was just going to ask why condition 17 would be removed.
Regard to
That's
the,
That's the movement of trucks for delivery purposes must occur between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Monday to Saturday only.
Our understanding is that the city has imposed this condition because the acoustic report references the time between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Monday to Saturday to restrict waste collections. So that's only on the basis of waste collections, not delivery trucks. As part of the acoustic modelling, we have included delivery trucks to come to the site over the nighttime period, which still achieves compliance. The reason why this condition, in our view, could be problematic is that this type of facility requires milk deliveries in the morning and those types of services required so they can fulfil its obligations during the day.
okay. Does that answer your question, councillor?
Yeah, that does. Thank you.
Okay, Nima, you have some questions?
Just seeking further clarification on condition 17. So if you're saying movement of delivery trucks, would it be waste collection? Should be instead put waste collection there between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Monday to Saturday?
We would be comfortable with replacing the term movement of trucks with waste collection vehicles.
So that would be acceptable?
Yes.
May I also ask the city officers, through you, presiding member, if that is suitable to the city?
Okay, I'll do that on block if there are any other questions or any of the issues raised by panel members. We can do that once we've asked any questions of the presenter. Are there any further questions? No? Okay, we may come back to you for some clarification on issues in a moment. But in the meantime, panel members, do you wish to raise any issues with the council staff? Nima, yes?
Yeah, just to my earlier question to the council staff, would it be much more appropriate that you just restrict the movement of the waste collection between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m? Would that, I mean, I know usually it's a standard sort of condition that most councils put in for any commercial development.
Thank you through the chair. Condition 17, given the discussion with the applicant regarding the compliance with the noise regulations as demonstrated in the noise assessment, condition 17 can fall away. We have condition 16, which deals with the waste management plan, which we will use to manage the collection times of vehicles so that there's an appropriate collection time frame as part of condition 16.
Thank you. That's all I needed to know. At least it's captured somewhere. So if you're happy with the waste management plan, then that's okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Presiding member, it's been indicated that the site to the north is subject to shopping centre development, which hasn't commenced. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that's correct. Woolworths has had a development approval granted. We're yet to receive a building permit for the site.
Okay, and will that occupy that street block north of Azura Street?
Essentially, yes, that's correct. Almost the entire portion of that street block. There is a section on the western end of that street block, which will be contain other development, but the Woolworths will sit mostly centrally on that site with a separate commercial structure on the northeastern section of that site and a future development along Lisford on the eastern side of that lot, which hasn't yet been lodged.
Okay, if I could also ask, the land immediately to the west and to the south, it looks like that land has been earthwork. Can you just clarify what intended land use?
Yes, so immediately to the west is commercial under the structure plan. So we're anticipating a range of commercial mixed uses through there and mostly to the north. To the south of the site is largely residential and some mixed use options through there, but the immediate to the south along Azura Street is being developed as single residential at this stage.
Thank you. Just clarifying comment on the development application plan. You said immediately west is commercial, but this plan shows proposed residential lots.
The plan on page, I'm just looking at the plan on page
184.
Attachment 3, I think. So you're looking at attachment.
Well, I'm looking at attachments, the development application plan, the site plan. Shows proposed residential lots abutting the western boundary of this site. Perhaps the intention from Mr. Reid.
So of the site, yes, there's subdivision has been approved and the lots are being constructed to the immediate west of this site.
Okay, thank you. That clarifies that. That's all. Thanks, Greg. Any further questions of the, Councillor Herridge?
Thanks, Presiding Member. I've got a few, if that's okay. I just wanted to check with our city staff on a couple of things that have been brought up in submissions and with deputies. I can completely sympathise with them, and I've picked up on quite a number of things. So I just wanted to chat a bit about the coastal boutique nature of the structure plan and whether our city staff actually believe that this has been suitably addressed, and explain a little bit more for me what boutique nature actually means, and make sure that they have actually nailed that in their development.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you through the chair. So the presenter for the applicant, Mr. Reid, went through the modifications that they'd made to the standard McDonald's palette of materials and colours to blend this development into that coastal environment, which is limestone heavy in terms of the materials that you'll see in the marina, at the commercial centre, shops there, and through the construction of the retaining and the statue of King Neptune himself, in terms of that prevailing material and colour palette. So they have done that in terms of, and the design of the building is a drive-through. There's not a lot you can actually do with a drive-through building, which is the proposal, but they have done that through the materials and the colours to make this a more unique style that's contextualised. There's also 25% of the site is landscaping, and there are some 1,000 odd plants that are proposed to be planted across the site to really enhance the appearance of the overall location. The coastal boutique is a one-line reference in the structure plan, which also identifies that there should be up to 5-storey apartment buildings around in the area. We're not getting that level of development at this time. Some of the aspirational elements of the structure plan are subject to the realities, I think, of the market, and what we're getting at the moment is single residential housing being built to the south, to the immediate south, and not multi-storey apartments. So in that respect, the McDonald's, I think, is a building that has been worked into its location and is set in what will be quite an attractive bit of landscaping around the site. Thank you.
Another, if I can.
Yes, go ahead.
Just to touch on that landscaping then, Mr. Baring, the 25%, is that higher than what is usually provided for?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, usually our minimum requirement is 8%, and we often struggle to get that.
And have we noticed if the vegetation and the trees that are being planted will be actually of a significant age rather than smaller? Because I know the land that's there at the moment is actually quite vacant. There's no vegetation or trees actually on the site, from what I understand. So that will take some time to actually grow and provide that amenity for the residents that are quite seriously concerned about that. So I'm hoping that there's some more vegetation and trees that are in a larger scale or height, I mean, like in age stock.
Thank you. Certainly, there's a range of species which are listed in the landscaping plan. I'll just grab a copy of it there. The age profile and is usually something that would evolve over time. So the more mature a tree tends to be when planted, the less it develops over time.
Okay.
And so there's usually a balance between planting large mature trees and semi-mature trees and seedlings to somewhere in that scale. So usually we don't try to get people to plant large trees because they just don't develop as well as trees that are younger when planted in situ. So that's something that our landscape architects have worked with, have reviewed, and they're happy with that plan.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just wanted to touch on parking. Normally when we see these things, we have issues with parking and the lack of, but this seems to be almost perfect, for want of a better word. So I'm assuming there's no parking shortfall with this development.
Thank you. The parking, because the site's relatively large comparatively to the use, we've been able to get a good amount of parking on site and landscaping as well. So it should operate, and in terms of the operation of the site, there's no issues with access and egress for traffic either.
Cool. And one last one, if that's okay, presiding member.
Ed.
I noted, apart from the smells and the hours of operation that were discussed with the deputies, litter seems to be quite a massive issue. I know I've put a couple of things in over my time as a councillor with fast food outlets that are in my ward. Do you feel that this will be mitigated enough with the waste plan, that there won't be an issue that is going to be as large as what the community actually feels it's going to be?
Thank you for the question. Littering initially is a personal responsibility. It's an offence under the Littering Act in the state to litter. So yes, it's personal behaviour that needs to be managed, not necessarily the use that is providing the service. And that could be for any use or any activity or any other business that operates from a commercial zone. So we already know that Two Rocks is a rapidly growing area. There will be a lot more businesses that arrive. McDonald's will be one of those businesses that operates from the area, and we will likely have to implement better waste control management and littering responses over time in a growing area. No different to what needs to be done in places that have coastal places that have McDonald's, like Fremantle and Bathurst Beach.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of the staff from the other panel members? No? Okay. Thank you very much, presenters and council staff. At this stage in discussion, we may wish to come back to you for clarification on items. But in the meantime, we move on to the agenda, which calls for our deliberation on the matter. So in order for that to happen, I need a mover and a seconder of the proposed recommendation for approval. Do I have a mover and seconder, please? Mover, Councillor Huntley. Seconder, Nemo Primage. Thank you. Yes, Councillor Huntley.
Thank you. I would first like to acknowledge and thank the community for their involvement and significant interest shown in the proposal. Hearing the voices of the many concerned residents is not something that we take lightly, and it reflects the strong sense of community pride in the area. I appreciate the genuine concerns raised, and I want to ensure everyone that these views have been taken into careful consideration throughout the process. As a panellist, it is my job to consider all aspects of the proposal against the planning framework and the guidelines. I am bound by this, and especially in this case. The application has been found to comply with the relevant planning regulations and policies, and as a result has been recommended for approval. And I understand this may be disappointing to some of the community, but planning approvals are based on a clear set of guidelines that ensure fairness and consistency in decision making. And these guidelines are established to protect the interest of the broader community while also allowing for the appropriate development. It is important to understand that while we may have personal preferences or concerns about a particular development, the panel must act within the constraints of these regulations. It is important to acknowledge that Two Rocks holds a significant place in the history of the region as a hub for innovation and forward-thinking tourism. From the ambitious development of Atlantis Marine Park to the excitement of the Birdman Rally that it used to hold, Two Rocks has often been the forefront of new ideas. The Binnie Shell Recreation Centre, now the Phil Rankin Centre, is a prime example of architectural innovation that once marked this area as a beacon of progress despite its distance from Perth. Unfortunately, as you noted, Two Rocks was perhaps ahead of its time, with the population not yet large enough to support the scale of growth that was envisioned. Coupled with the growing concerns over animal welfare and safety, in particular regarding the Birdman Rally, this led to a period of retrenchment, returning the town to its fishing village roots. For over 3 decades, the town has embraced this more modest identity, celebrating its natural beauty and quiet charm. However, we now stand on the cusp of another major transformation. The planned district town centre and the development of the area as a satellite city for Yanchep marks a shift that, like Atlantis before it, will dramatically reshape the landscape of Two Rocks. Whether as the last town you see when leaving the city of Wanneroo or the first town you will encounter when entering, Two Rocks is once again poised to play a pivotal role in the region's future. It is understandable that the community, having enjoyed the return to a more tranquil fishing village atmosphere, may feel apprehensive about the changes ahead. These shifts represent a significant departure from what has been familiar for decades. However, just as Two Rocks led the way in progress during Atlantis era, this new phase presents an opportunity for the town to once again become a leader, not just in tourism, but sustainable growth, community development, and the careful balancing of progress with preservation. In the context of the current proposal, this broader narrative of Two Rocks helps frame the community's concerns. It's not just about a single development, it's about how this fits into the larger story of change and the continuity in the town's history. Understanding that history and community's connection is key to ensuring that future developments respect the past with embracing the future. Therefore, I found myself standing in 3 distinct camps, each pulling me in different directions. As the president of the Wanneroo Historical Society, my role is to safeguard the rich heritage and unique character of our community, including places like Two Rocks, which hold deep historical significance. As a local councillor, I'm committed to serving the best interests of the community, considering the broader needs and concerns of residents I represent. And as a panel member, I must uphold the planning framework and make decisions based on regulations and policies that guide responsible development. With all of these hats on, I'm continually searching for the right balance, the compromise that ensures both progress and preservation. And after weighing up all 3 perspectives, I must acknowledge that the planning regulations, as established by the city, leave little room for deviation in this instance. While I share the concerns of the community and understand the sensitivity around these changes, I am ultimately obliged to accept the proposal complies with the necessary planning guidelines. McDonald's have deviated from their signature signage to support the boutique essence and atmosphere, and also as an art piece mural, which is way beyond McDonald's normally. The decision is not made lightly to accept the planning for this development. And I hope that moving forward, we can continue to engage in dialogue that respects our history while embracing the opportunities that future development brings. I believe that by working together, we can shape Two Rocks' next chapter in a way that honours its past and supports the aspirations of the community. So while I respect the depth of feeling on this issue, the proposal does comply with the planning requirements. I am confident that this development can proceed in a way that is respectful of the concerns raised by the residents. I also encourage ongoing collaboration between the community, the council and the business to ensure that the area continues to thrive and remain a place we are all proud to call home. Thank you, and I hope my fellow colleagues will support this development.
Thank you, councillor. Nemo, as seconder, you also have the right to.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Huntley. And just to say that the report has been well prepared. Independent heritage assessment has concluded that the development would not harm the heritage values. And again, McDonald's has amended their design to complement the coastal boutique theme, and the concerns that has been expressed by the residents have been very well answered, adequately answered by the applicant. And I totally appreciate all the concerns expressed by the residents, and both the council city officers to acknowledge them and to address them through the conditions and advisory notes. Hence, I support the recommendation, probably foreshadowing the deletion of condition 17.
Thank you very much. Mr. Harris, do you wish to speak to the item?
Thank you, presiding member. Look, I would endorse the comments made by Councillor Huntley and Member Premji. I won't go into detail, but I do agree that the proposal reflects the planning framework, but both at a local and state level. It's a use that's appropriate within a commercial and district centre location. I acknowledge the depth of feeling by some of the community members and concern about amenity impacts, and it's not something that is unusual for fast food outlets. Having said that, I think the conditions proposed by the council officers and included in the RAR go a long way to reduce potential impacts associated with smell, noise and traffic. So I'm satisfied they're appropriately addressed. The issue of heritage has been raised by numerous presenters, and it's a legitimate concern, but I think the impact of this in terms of the heritage is mitigated by the fact that there is a substantial shopping centre between this site and particularly the Neptune statue. So I think the potential for impact is very low. So on that basis, I'm prepared to support the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Heritage, to speak to the item.
Thanks, presiding member. I think I've said pretty much everything in my questions. I do, again, as everybody else has, want to thank the community for being involved in the process. I think we all sympathise with them and can understand where they're coming from. Fortunately or unfortunately, they're living right next to the district centre, so this is inevitable and more will come from this. I just hope that the developments that do come, they've been listening to what the community are asking for, and they're more along the lines and complementary of the little shops and the boutique nature that the community are looking for. Yes, and I do also support the proposal because there is, I believe, no planning grounds to refuse. Thank you.
Thank you. My comments, look, the zoning and policy for this area allows for this type of development from a land use point of view. And I think that is one of the primary things that this panel has to consider. The proposal conforms to the planning framework in terms of the use, floor space, traffic issues, landscaping, signage requirements and zoning. On the heritage aspect, this facility is in the secondary zone of influence on the heritage listing for the locality, and this proposal is well removed from the King Neptune statue. There'll be a shopping centre between this proposal and the statue itself. The design review that this proposal was put through and worked through on a number of occasions with council staff highlighted the fact that the proposed development is modified substantially from the standard McDonald's stable of designs. And in fact, I think a number of examples of that can shown where McDonald's doesn't utilise all of that. Some inner city McDonald's restaurants are in fact in heritage buildings throughout Australia.
Doesn't matter, you can't polish a turd here.
And excuse me, if you wish to make a comment like that, I'll have to ask you to leave. Thank you. The use of light colours, graphics and public art was incorporated into the development. And in terms of signage, the applicants have made, at the request of council, changes to the standard signage to reduce the amenity impacts. Now, much of the objections relate to issues that are anti-social behaviour, and there's, whilst they point at particular developments, this isn't something that we can consider. Antisocial behaviour is once again a personal matter, and there are. Excuse me, please don't interrupt. And that there are responsibilities under other legislation for antisocial behaviour to be addressed. The odour issue, the building's been fitted with smoke and odour filtration systems, and a far cry from the original fast food outlets that McDonald's, KFC and Hungry Jack's used to put in suburbs adjacent to residential areas that belched out smokes like a cross-Atlantic steamer. Traffic impact has been addressed, and that I think shows that the development is suitable for the location. In terms of the proliferation of fast food uses, there are no designated fast food outlets in the locality. However, the shopping centre that's been approved, I'm sure that the approval allows for a shop, which allows for a fast food outlet, and it would not be out of the question to see other fast food outlets being established under the approval of the shopping centre. And other submissions that came forward, things like corporate greed, the unhealthy food, lack of other facilities in Turox. These are things that can be considered emotive, and things that the planning framework cannot look into. If people consider fast food outlets unhealthy, then they don't have to go to them. And that's a community thing. If the health authorities designate fast food outlets as unhealthy, then it's their responsibility to change that. So in terms of the use and the changing nature of Turox, well, we only have to look at places like Waterman Bay, Mullaloo. Over the years, they were considered crayfishing villages, and they've now developed into district centres with the commercial facilities that go with them. That said, I'm supporting the proposal as well. As we've all spoken to the item, I will now ask for.
Sorry, Jean, just to clarify, was there any change made to condition 17?
Yeah, I was going to get onto that. I was going to say, as we've all spoken on the item, are we going to move an amendment to the conditions under amending motion? Yes. Okay. So, with the agreement of the mover and seconder, the condition 17 is to be deleted, and we can vote on that as part of the substantive motion. That being the case, Councillor Humphrey, do you wish to close debate on the item?
Yes, thank you, Presiding Member.
Sorry, if the proposition was that not to be deleted, but the reference to be specific to waste removal trucks.
I think they were going to, the council staff said that they can pick it up in the waste management plan.
That's fine.
Okay. All right, thank you. Councillor Huntley.
Thank you. The proposal for a McDonald's outlet meets all of the necessary criteria. While I understand there are concerns about potential odour, light, noise and litter, these have been evaluated within the framework of the planning regulations, and we must also consider the rights of businesses to develop in areas where zoning permits such land use. And in this instance, the proposal site aligns with the planning policies in place. So regarding the issue of litter, I would like to emphasise that while McDonald's does have a responsibility to manage their operations and reduce their waste, the wider issue of litter in the community is one that falls on all of us. Businesses cannot be held accountable for the actions of individuals. Once they leave the premises, it is for each member of the community to respect and take care of our environment in which we all live. That said, I would encourage continued dialogue with the City of Wanneroo and local stakeholders to explore ways we can collectively address these concerns through community education, waste management programs, or other proactive measures. In terms of odour, noise and light pollution, I acknowledge the unique geographical characteristics of the area. However, it is important to recognise that similar developments, like the presiding member has already shown us, they have managed these issues effectively. I'm happy to delete condition 17, and therefore I would ask you to support this development, as there is no substantial reason for the proposal in regard to the planning framework to actually say no to this application. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That being the closure of the debate, I will put the item to a vote. All those in favour with the amended version with deletion of condition 17. All right, thank you very much. Okay, that item's been determined in the affirmative. Item 4 on the agenda, I'll move to. There are no Form 2 DAP applications. Item 5, no SAT reconsiderations. Part D of the agenda, item 1, SAT applications, the listing of those. Item 2, general business. There being no general business, I will close the meeting at 11:03 a.m. and thank everybody for their participation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Doing this with the much shit. We need development, and this is what you've given us, McDonald's.
Thank you.
And now.
Thank you very much.